If you're an investor like me, then you've been probably getting more and more excited about the sleepy Melbourne market that nobody in Australia is focusing on at the moment, which is why in today's video, after looking at over 523 suburbs within 60 Ks of Melbourne CBD, I wanted to bring you a handful of the best suburbs for 2025. Now, the first suburb I wanted to touch on today is 31 Ks from the CBD of Melbourne in West Melbourne. Now, I know so many people are going to be like, well, why are you looking at West Melbourne and why are you looking at North Melbourne? And the reason for this is nobody in Melbourne and nobody in Australia is correctly valuing the West and North Melbourne markets at the moment. Now, I've seen investors and people growing up in cities do this time and time again in the likes of Sydney, in Perth and Adelaide, as well as Brisbane in the last 10 years. Now, the first suburb is called Wyndham Vale, where the current house price is currently selling for a super low $570,000 right now. Now, what I like about this area is vacancy rates are low, sitting at just over 2% at the moment, and only 31% of the people living there are renters. Now, to kick things off, I wanted to show you this beautiful little 3-bedroom brick home that is just sold for a low $490,000. Now, you can see this cute little place in number 4 Chatswood Place, Wyndham Vale, is just a super simple, low maintenance property. As you can see, it presents extremely nice from the outside, but when you get internally, obviously there could be a tiny little bit of work to do. Now, with a coat of paint, some new flooring and some new blinds, this place could polish up extremely well. As you can see from the photos, it's got a super tidy kitchen and it's been really well presented. Obviously, the owners had a bit of fun there with each of the bedrooms being a completely different color, but if you sort of brought that more into a Scandinavian color set of nice white walls and a nice white roof with those replaced blinds and maybe a beautiful wood look vinyl flooring, it would look significantly better. Now, what's crazy about this property is if you're looking to buy the same thing in the likes of Sydney right now, you could be looking to pay an extra $500K to even $1 million for this exact same sort of property this distance from the CBD. Obviously, not everybody wants work. Not everybody wants a smaller piece of land and a 3-bedroom home, which is why I wanted to show you this second property that just sold for $620,000. Now, as you can see, looking through the photos here, number 16 Pascal Way is a beautiful 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car garage, brick and tile, almost new home. It presents extremely well from the street, and when looking through the photos, you can see it's had a fresh coat of paint and some fresh carpet in preparation for sale. What I love about this property is the bathrooms are still in extremely good nick, as is the kitchen, which means as an investor for $620K, you can sort of go in there, buy the property and not have any headaches for the next 5 or 10 years outside of general maintenance. Again, to find something like this so close to the CBD, 31 Ks from Sydney, you'd be looking to add a significant amount of money to your purchase price, which is why I'm loving Melbourne at the moment. Now, the second suburb that I love is one called Werribee, which is 29 Ks from the city in West Melbourne. Now, what I love about this area is the average house price is still in the $600K mark with pretty good weekly rent at about the $475 a week. What I like about this suburb even more though is there was 880 sales in the last 12 months, which means if you ever need to sell your property or you want to revalue it in the future, there is generally a buyer or somebody that sold the same property for more than you bought yours for that you can use for bank valuations moving forward. On top of this, one of my favorite things about Melbourne and this suburb at the moment is the average property is taking 58 days to sell, which says to me that there's almost no demand in this suburb at the moment compared to the likes of Perth, Adelaide or Brisbane right now, which means you're not going to be fighting hand over fist against 20 or 30 people for every single property you try to buy. Now, when we look at this beautiful 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car garage home on a just under 400 square meter block at number 3 Radisson Crescent in Werribee, you can see again it's extremely new and in very good condition. Now, what I love about this property is when you look at the bathroom, they've spent a little bit more money than your average newly built property with the floor-to-ceiling tiles and the nice wall-hung vanity. On top of this, the kitchen is extremely low maintenance and in great condition. You can see the property's also got ducted air conditioning and rectified edge or whited tiles with straight edges throughout the property. And as an investor, I look for these things because it means the builders cared a little bit more and the person who's created the property has spent that little bit more money taking it up a level so that it's not just investor stock, but it's more principal place of residence, mum and dad stock. You can see from the photos at just how set and forget a property like this would be that's in extremely good condition and extremely new. And for 620K, to me, is an absolute bargain, 29K from the city of Melbourne right now. Now, the third suburb I wanted to discuss today is actually in North Melbourne, and it's a suburb called Roxburgh Park, just 20 kilometres from the CBD. Now, the fact that we're even having a conversation in 2025 where you can buy a property that's in great condition, just 20K from the city with an average house price in Melbourne of 650K is phenomenal. In my opinion, if you were looking at the same thing in Brisbane, Perth, or Sydney right now, as well as Canberra, you'd be looking to pay 800K to over $1 million right now for very similar properties in the same condition as this area. Now, what I love about this suburb is the vacancy rate is chronically undersupplied. As we know, anything below 2% would be considered undersupply. But in this suburb, the vacancy rate is sitting at literally 0.53%, which is just half of 1%. And that means it's putting massive pressure on rents, and they should pop over time. On top of this, Roxburgh Park, just 20K in the city, is an extremely high quality mum and dad area with only 22% of the people living there being renters. Now, from what I've seen from buying over $550 million worth of property in New South Wales and Queensland over the last 10 years, is that suburbs with a lower percentage of renters generally have more mums and dads. And when those mums and dads are earning more money and putting some of that money back into building nicer houses, knocking down older houses, or renovating houses in your street, over time, the quality of the suburb goes up significantly. Now, the first property I wanted to show you, as you can see, is number 11 Rostron Way, Roxburgh Park. I swear these names down in Victoria are absolutely crushing me on this video today. Now, this little 3-bedroom, older style brick and tile home was obviously built extremely well back in the day. As you can see, clicking through the photos, the property is well maintained and well presented and easily tenantable today, but has massive amounts of potential to make it way lower maintenance and way more valuable in the future to both renters and on resale or revaluation. Now, to me, what's crazy about this particular property and area in particular is just 20K in the city. This home sold for literally only 522K on the 22nd of January this year. To me personally, as the cat starts getting out of the bag in the next 2 or 3 years in Melbourne, properties like this will no longer exist. And honestly, as an investor who likes buying cheap and at the bottom of a market cycle when nobody else is looking, this sort of stuff just makes me so excited. Now, one of the other things I love about this particular suburb and many of the others in Melbourne is when I looked at the 523 suburbs from how they've performed longer term and how they've performed in the last 10 years, I can see a massive incongruence right now. Now, from looking at the data over a 50-year period and looking at the total return in Melbourne divided by the 50 years, I found that the average property down there had done about 9.5% per annum, where it had done about 9.6% in Sydney and about 9.7% in Brisbane. Now, what's interesting about this suburb and many others in Melbourne, if you know where to look at the moment, is in the last 10 years, this suburb, which is Roxbury Park, has only actually done an average of 5.87% per annum, which says to me that it is well below its long-term averages of 9.5% per annum. Now, why this is important to you as an investor is when we add in another piece of data, which is the fact that over the last sort of 30 years, the average price difference between Sydney and Melbourne has normally been about 30%, but right now it's sitting at a 60% difference in prices. It means that that 30% jump back to long-term averages is coming. It's just a matter of when. Now, the fourth and final suburb I wanted to go super deep in today is a suburb called Craigieburn, which is in North Melbourne and just 24K from the CBD. Now, what I love about this suburb is the average house price is selling for just 650K, and in a moment I'll show you some absolute palaces for that price. On top of this, the average household incomes in the area are almost $90,000 per household, but the average rents are just sitting at about $500 per week, which says to me that not only can house prices go up based on historical averages, but rents can jump significantly as Melbourne fills out as well. Now, when we look at this first property and these incredible photos of this beautiful double-story, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car garage home that sold in January for just $695K, I'm blown away. As you can see going through these suburbs, there's absolutely no way you can get this value within 24Ks of city if your life depended on it. In fact, I believe the price would be 2 or almost 3 times higher for this property in Sydney right now. Now, this property is in extremely good condition, even though it's a little bit older, and you can see that the owners have repainted the property for sale. A property like this would be super desirable to a family and rent immediately with so much extra space for kids and such a big, beautiful open home. As you can see, the kitchen and the flooring, as well as the paint jobs, the air conditioners and the lights have all been done at some point in the last 10 years, making this property a super, super low maintenance, set and forget tenant style property for either somebody living in Melbourne to rent or for somebody interstate in Australia looking to pick up without any headaches. What's crazy to me is that you couldn't even build this home in Melbourne for under 700K right now. So you're effectively getting the entire piece of land for free. Now, when I've seen the similar things in Sydney or Brisbane over the last 15 years as an investor myself, the market isn't silly and it doesn't take long for things to price themselves properly. Now, to round things out, I just wanted to show you one more property that recently sold for just $585,000 in Craigieburn. Now, as you can see, looking through these photos, number 38 Fillmore Drive is in extremely good condition and looks basically brand new. This type of property is just non-existent anywhere else in Australia right now for this pricing. And as you can see, it's got a beautiful kitchen, beautiful flooring, air conditioners, lights, and is extremely tenantable, as well as massively undervalued in my opinion right now. This type of property is not just super affordable in my opinion, but well below replacement value 5 or 10 years from today. Now, what I love about Melbourne and so many of these suburbs that I've identified after going through the entire market is the average discount is extremely high at the moment. So that means when the property comes on realestate.com saying 600K, many of these suburbs in sort of north, west, or inner Melbourne are dropping in price by somewhere between 5 and 10% below what you're seeing them on realestate.com for. So again, that's another sign that there isn't strong demand in this market at the moment. There's not heaps of people rushing in to buy these properties or these suburbs. And for a lot of the people living in Melbourne, these suburbs aren't even on their radar. And for many, many investors, because it's not going up by more than 10% per annum right now, it's not on people's radars because every investor wants a short-term winner. And while Melbourne might not return amazing things like Brisbane will in the next 2 or 3 years, or maybe even longer than that, longer term, we know it's got an incredible history of performance and the tide will turn in Melbourne. And like the other states in Australia and the other capital cities that have gone ballistic since COVID, the rising tide will lift all boats. G'day guys, my name's Ben and I'm the director here at Pumped on Property. And I just want to say a massive thank you for watching our content today. Now, if you're thinking about buying an investment property in the next 3 to 12 months, then the team and I would love to offer you a one-on-one strategy session. In that session, we can talk about exactly where you are right now, where you'd like to be longer term, and we can deeply educate you on the Australian market. And then you can take that information and go and absolutely smash it on your own, or potentially become one of the small number of clients that we work with each week. To book your session, all you have to do is go to www.pumpedonproperty.com and click that book your free strategy session button. But either way, we wish you all the best on your journey as an investor to financial freedom.